Welcome to the Friday Five with Steve Greenfield on CBT News.
Welcome to this week's Friday Five, where we recap the last week's automotive technology deals. This is Steve Greenfield from Automotive Ventures, and thanks for joining us. I'm excited to be reporting this week from the National Auto Dealers Association conference out here at the Las Vegas Convention Center's West Wing. After a year off from last year's virtual NADA, it's really good to be back for a fun-filled weekend of back-to-back meetings and catching up with hundreds of industry friends. There's a lot of interesting news this week, given that many companies make specific announcements to coincide with the NADA convention, so let's get started. The biggest news this week in the AutoTech investment and M&A world is that F&I platform AutoFi announced an $85 million financing from investors that included Santander Consumer USA, and we're joined by Crosslink Capital and Silicon Valley Bank parent company SVB Financial Group. The latest funding round translates into a nearly $700 million valuation for AutoFi and follows 4 straight years of doubling revenue. AutoFi software allows consumers to browse dealership inventory and see financing offers tailored to the dealership's preferences. It handled more than 1 million financing requests to lenders and was associated with more than $3 billion in sales just last year. AutoFi uses new real payments platform as an example of what it planned to fund with an $85 million investment. Real payments reverses the traditional order of operations. Customers get pre-approved for credit and then sort inventory by vehicles affordable under the loan. Users only spend time on vehicles they can finance. The company grew from 80 employees in 2020 to 220 by the end of 2021 and is projected to grow to at least 300 employees by the end of 2022. Next up, Ford Motor Company is creating a lot of buzz out here this week as they make big changes to the company's structure and their dealerships. Ford announced that they would separate their company into halves. One half, Ford Blue, would be responsible for engineering, sales, manufacturing, and the eventual wind down of the internal combustion engine business, while the other half, Ford Model E, would be in charge of R&D, sales, and manufacturing of EVs and the launch of mobility services. This is a bold move from Ford, and not just because every legacy automaker was already trying to figure out how best to separate the two seemingly disparate businesses, but because they're embracing it. This puts pressure potentially on other automakers to keep a watchful eye on what Ford executes. Ford wants to craft a new set of operating standards for EV sales and would combine the most popular aspects of direct sale startups with the expertise its dealers have developed over more than a century of sales. This includes a commitment to carrying no inventory, selling at non-negotiable prices, and operating with scaled-down facilities. Each of Ford's roughly 3,100 U.S. dealers will have the opportunity to opt in to sell EVs alongside gasoline-powered vehicles under the new standards, similar to how its commercial vehicle dealers must adhere to certain requirements. Those dealers who cannot afford to or choose not to will continue to sell internal combustion engine vehicles. It's unclear whether Ford will let dealers choose to sell only EVs. Finally this week, Intel Corporation announced that its Mobileye autonomous vehicle technology unit has confidentially filed paperwork for an IPO in the U.S., which could value it at more than $50 billion. Intel did not provide additional details about the offering, but has previously said that it would receive the majority of the proceeds from the share sale. Some of those funds will be used to build more Intel chip plants, the company said late last year. The chip giant will also retain a majority stake in the unit after the IPO, it has said previously. Mobileye is an Israeli company that Intel bought for about $15.3 billion in 2017 and uses a camera-based system with adaptive cruise control and lane-changing assistance in driverless cars. The company, founded in 1999, plans to eventually build its own LiDAR system to help the cars map out a 3-dimensional view of the road. It is currently using LiDAR units from Luminar Technologies on its initial robotaxis in the meantime. Finally, as I mentioned last week, we at Automotive Ventures are now actively fundraising the Automotive Ventures Dealer Fund to help auto dealerships navigate through the next decade of unprecedented change, invest into and participate financially in the auto tech startups they help to grow. If you're an auto dealer and you'd like to find out more, let me know. I look forward to working with you to bring the new Automotive Ventures Dealer Fund to market. So that's your weekly Friday 5, a quick wrap up of the big deals in the automotive technology space over the past week. It's great to be back out here at the NADA conference in Las Vegas after a year off. It's great to catch up face-to-face with many industry folks after missing out on the experience last year. So with that, thank you for tuning into CBT News for this week's Friday 5, and we'll see you back in the CBT News studio for next week's show.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of the Friday 5.